Good evening, everyone. I'm Dave Shea, President of the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce, and the Commerce is proud to present the 2014 Candidates Night. We thank all of you for joining us tonight. I want to thank our corporate sponsors who underwrote this and made it possible for us to have this tonight. Tiny & Sons Auto Glass, Remax Spectrum, and Long Pond Physical Therapy. Nice round of applause for them. They made this happen. As always, I want to thank our good friends and gracious hosts, Wally and Joe Ronick of the Pembroke Country Club. They always do a great job anytime the Chamber has an event here, and thanks to them. We do have cards on your table. If you would like to write a question that Steve Dodge will pose to the candidates later in the evening, you're encouraged to write them down. Someone will be around shortly and collect those. But without any further ado, I want to turn it over to the moderator of tonight's program, Pembroke Town Moderator Steve Dodge.
Thanks, Dave, and I too want to thank the Chamber and the sponsors for making this possible this evening, as well as the Country Club. And I will just take a moment to explain the format, which is fairly simple. I'll introduce the candidates and we'll get right into it. Since this isn't Fox or CBS or ABC, we don't have to be out of here right at the stroke of 8 o'clock. I do expect that we probably will be closer, Ed? Yeah. That we will be here about an hour or so, maybe give or take. We're all cognizant of the fact that our new favorite winter term, wintry mix, is on its way, so we want to get you home before that started. But we expect the entire debate to last about an hour or so, give or take. The format is simple. We will have 4 parts. We'll have each candidate give an opening statement for 2 minutes. Then we'll have questions from our reporters who are here. And that will be, each candidate will have a minute to answer each one of those questions. And then, as Dave mentioned, we'll take questions from you. We encourage you to ask questions. There'll be folks screening the questions just to make sure there's no duplication and that they're appropriate questions. The candidates will have a minute to answer those questions, and then we'll have the closing statements that will be 2 minutes apiece. Because of the sheer number of candidates, which is a good thing, by the way, we do have to limit the amount of time that we can allow the candidates to speak. Dave is over there, and he'll be manning the time clock, and we're giving the candidates a brief warning, and then indicating when their minute or 2 minutes is up. Unfortunately, we could not invite every single candidate up here because of the fact that we'd be here all night. But I do want to mention the fact that there are a number of candidates that are running who are uncontested, and I do want to mention those because I think it's important to mention them. The moderator's position, yours truly, is a candidate for a 1-year term for re-election. Assessor Elizabeth Bates, candidate for re-election for a 3-year term. Our town clerk is up for re-election. Mary Ann Smith for a 3-year term. Housing Authority, there was 1 seat open, and Carolyn Crosley is a candidate for re-election for a 5-year term. 2 seats in the Library Trustees. Both incumbents are running for re-election for 3-year terms, Marilyn Dion and Jillian Taylor. And there is 1 seat for Constable, 3-year term, and that is Robert Digger Dorsey is running for re-election. And last but certainly not least, Pembroke School Committee, 2 incumbents are up for re-election. They have no opponents, 2 3-year terms, Paul Bosworth and Suzanne Scroggins. So for the contested races, and we have 3 races, as I'm sure you know, the Selectman's race, the Board of Health race, the DPW race. I want to just quickly introduce the candidates. The Selectman's candidates, I'm sure you know them all, but I'll introduce them. To my right, far right, Arthur Boyle, Bill Boulter, Bob DeMarzo, Ben Bastianelli. To my left are the 2 DPW candidates, Tom Irving and Jason Federico. And to my far left there are 3 Board of Health candidates. 1 is here, Gary Fine. Gail McSweeney had an illness in the family. She could not make it tonight, and we were expecting Vince Flaherty, and we certainly hope that he shows up before the evening progresses too far. So we'll start with the opening round. I used Kyle Harney's hat over there, and we threw names into a hat, and we drew them randomly for the order in which candidates will give their 2-minute opening speech, and we'll use that same order for the closing speech. So the first name drawn out of the hat was Bill Boulter.
Very good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm really glad to be here tonight. Most of you people know me. I've been here in town for a good number of years. I'm married. I have 4 children. 2 of my children are full-time police officers. One is a sergeant at MIT. The other one is a state trooper. My 3rd son is a full-time firefighter at Logan. He's in charge of the Marine unit up there. My daughter is an executive for Enterprise Car Rental. And I have 9 grandchildren running around here and there, from here to Utah. I've been a resident in town here for probably approximately 51 years. My home is on Furnace Pond. We have a really nice place there. I'm retired after working on the police department for 44 years. And one of those years, I was the chief of police here in town before I retired. Now I have a part-time job. I work for Boston Harbor Cruises as a captain on the big boats, the Majesty and some of the other big whale watch boats. This will be my 3rd term running as selectman. I've done 2 terms prior to this. Hopefully I'll get elected for the 3rd term. In both of my 2 terms prior, I made a promise to the residents of Pembroke that I would work hard as a selectman and try to do the best job that I could for the residents of the town. And I think that I've done that throughout the years and sometimes it's kind of a hard thing to do, that you have certain feelings that you would like to have something go your way. But I've always thought about my decisions before I made them and thought that my decision should be best for what's good for the whole town, not just what's good for me.
And Bill,
So
we're just about out of time.
Excuse me?
That's 2 minutes.
Oh.
You can wrap it up. I'll give you a chance.
Just wrap it up.
Yeah.
I've had 2 years as chairman on the Board of Selectmen. I was your chairman for the 300th Anniversary Committee. We raised over $60,000 in grants plus local money. So all of the events that we did was at no cost to the taxpayers. I'm an alternate representative for the North River Commission. I'm also an alternate representative for the Heron Fisheries Commission. I've been the president of the Pembroke Police Boys Club for 36 years. I've worked on a bunch of projects within the town.
We'll have to end it, Bill, I think.
And that's about it.
All right. Next, I want to be cognizant. I don't want to shut people down in mid-sentence. I want to give them a chance to finish their thought, but we do have to keep the time constraints fairly tight. Next name out of the hat is Arthur Boyle.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, folks. I'm Arthur Boyle, a candidate for re-election to the Pembroke Board of Selectmen. Thanks, Ed. You're always bailing me out. The board is not about individuals, although we all bring a specialty or an area of special talent or special interest to the board. The board is a team that is elected to work in the best interest of the town. I bring knowledge and experience to a board that has been quite stable over the past several years, a big difference for those who remember years ago when the board was not quite so stable. When I came to the Board of Selectmen after helping lead the fight to establish an independent school system for Pembroke, the town had less than $30,000 in the rainy day fund, or the stabilization fund for those of you from advisory at the front table. A concerted effort of a board of 5 increased that to almost $1.5 million today. A team effort that included the town administrator, the accountant, the treasurer collector, the advisory board, and the Board of Selectmen. We improved our bond rating and our overall financial position. We've gone to curbside recycling of trash and recyclables. And this is just in the past week, we've agreed that trash fees are going to be reduced by about 15%, or down to about $220 or $225. And when's the last time any branch of government ever gave you a reduction in your bill? A number of years ago, I was the first member of the Board of Selectmen to join the Pembroke Watershed Association. As a private group, the Watershed Association has raised tens of thousands of dollars to be put into our ponds, and the results are very positive. Private citizens teaming up with local government create a winning program, and as recently as this past week, I started work on an initiative with Congressman Keating and Representative Cutler's office to change the way we pay our seniors on the tax work-off program. Seniors will get the maximum number of dollars for their property taxes, and again, teamwork, local, state, and federal officials working together. This election is about experience as we move forward, and I bring that experience and proven leadership to the Board of Selectmen. I enjoyed being part of the team and ask for one of your 2 votes for Pembroke Board of Selectmen on April 26th. Thank you.
Thank you. Next name drawn out of the hat is Ben Bastianelli.
Good evening. I'm Ben Bastianelli, and I want to be your selectman. In order for a town to thrive and not merely to exist, it must look forward, set goals, and incorporate progress. We cannot be held back by lack of effectiveness. In order to achieve effectiveness, a selectman must take a position and be accountable. To be a selectman, it takes a clear understanding of the bylaws, which set forth our policies and procedures. Beyond this, it takes fortitude to demand that they be followed, regardless of which board, committee, elected official, or department head needs to be held accountable. As a selectman, one needs to set a standard. As we saw at the last town meeting, we cannot continue to develop budgets without sound fiscal management, long-range planning, or poorly negotiated municipal contracts that we can't afford. This year, we're planning to balance the budget on one-time monies from property tax, property sales, and estimated meals tax revenue. This is the kind of dealings that got us in trouble the last time. Our infrastructure is falling apart, our recreation center is condemned, our roads are a mess, and our town hall is outdated. I was embarrassed recently by the Department of Revenue report on the town's inefficiencies. We know we don't follow our own bylaws, and if we're not aware of that, we don't know what it takes to be a selectman. A selectman needs to understand the elected position, take seriously the business of spending other people's money while protecting the interest of the taxpayers. Keeping an eye on wasteful spending, such as running a solid waste disposal system that's riddled with cost overruns and bloated budgets. I bring a number of years of involvement in town government. I take seriously spending your money. These skills have been utilized at the DPW in renovations of water treatment plants, ascertaining funding for roadway improvements, purchasing future water resources, to list a few. All while assuring no increases in water rates or cost overruns. In the last 4 years, the DPW has turned monies back to the general fund. This is the type of selectman I want. Productive, transparent, accountable, and responsible. That's why I think I deserve your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final selectman's candidate, Bob DeMarzo. And I'm going to ask the candidates if they can. I know it's a little difficult, but Dave's over in the corner there giving a 15-second warning. I don't want to break in and break your stride, but if you think you're close to the end, he'll give you an indication, and then I'll tell you when time's up. So, Bob.
Good evening. I'm Bob DeMarzo. If you're going to be part of a team managing a town of 19,000 people and a $57 million budget, you better be prepared and have a proven track record. Very briefly, I'm going to tell you some of my background, qualifications, achievements, and goals. Then it's up to you to decide if I have the dedication and preparation to be part of that team that will be leading Pembroke in the next 3 years. I've served on the Board of Selectmen for 9 years, 92 to 95 and 2001 to 2007. Planning Board, Library Building Committee as Chairman, Open Space Committee, Wage and Personnel Board, Pembroke Chamber of Commerce as a Founder, President, Director. I was the 1999 Citizen of the Year, Government Study Committee, 275th Anniversary Committee, and probably the most challenging youth soccer coach. I firmly believe that we must all give to our community, and I have proven that I have a lot to offer the town as selectman and make a positive contribution. As a selectman, I bring 2 important qualities to the board. Management, that is the ability to organize and accomplish desired goals, and leadership, which requires vision, identification of problems and goals, and a plan to attack them. In my business as an insurance broker and certified financial planner, I continually deal with a variety of issues: tax, legal, financial, people and problems, and planning. In order to succeed, I had to develop organizational and people skills, time management, and the bottom line, getting things done in a timely manner. As for leadership, I was chairman of the Library Building Committee. We, and I do mean we, were able to write a state grant application that was #1 in the state. We received $1,340,000 in grants. We were able to build the library on time, under budget, and more than was promised. I was the original proponent of the Cash Management Committee. As an Open Space Committee member, we were able to obtain a $540,000 state grant towards the purchase of Tubbs Meadow. I was able to negotiate a $270,000 payment from the city of Brockton towards the purchase. Tubbs Meadow basically cost the town nothing. Over 37 years, I've been a strong voice on town meeting floor, doing my homework and many times asking the tough questions that need to be asked. I can use business skills in a government environment, something that's not easily done.
Thank you.
As for vision, two more seconds. As for vision, I'd like to see a grant writing committee review all the revolving accounts. There's over $2 million in revolving accounts. We need to take a close look at that. Improves the town finances. Please make your first vote, Bob DeMarzo. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to the DPW candidates, I neglected to mention that PAC Television is televising this to be broadcast at a cable channel near you soon and often, and we thank them for that. And also I want to thank Ed Perry from WATD for helping out and providing the sound system for us this evening. So we thank you both. Moving on to the DPW candidates, the first name out of the hat was Tom Irving.
Hi, I'm Tom Irving, and I'm seeking re-election to the position of DPW Commissioner for another 3 years. My background is 50-plus years in the construction industry as a municipal inspector, resident representative, estimator, superintendent, project manager for water, drainage, sewer, and grading. Sharon and I have been residents of Pembroke for 27 years. We enjoy living here, and I feel that because of my background, I would like to be able to continue to give back to the town. I'd like to be able to oversee the reconstruction of Route 14, Route 36, and the signals at Pleasant and Washington Streets. I would like to see the completion of the stormwater management program that is currently underway. We anticipate that Route 14 will be done in 2016, and then Pleasant Street at Washington Street and Route 36 will be completed in 2018, depending upon state funding. I'd like to see the implementation of the payment management program that we have put together with the assistance of the Beta Group. While that involves $11.5 million, the commissioners would like to see the program spread over a 5-year period. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, I'm going to remind the candidates to make sure, as they used to tell us, eat the mic, right up to the microphone, so we're picked up not only by those recording, but also those in the back can hear as well. Jason Federico.
Good evening. My name is Jason Federico. I grew up here in Pembroke. I don't know how many people here might know who I am, but I haven't been involved in town politics up until this point, but I do have 20 years of experience in the public works realm. I started with the Marshfield Public Works Department. After I graduated from college, I moved on to work for several different civil engineering companies. I currently own my own civil engineering company out of Plymouth, Massachusetts. I have a lot of experience in the public works sector, from anywhere from designing water treatment plants to water mains, sewer treatment plant upgrades. I also worked on roadway projects, drainage projects, civil site projects in the design phase and implementation and planning process. I've worked with multiple DPW departments across the state. I have understood how different departments work, and I'd like to bring that knowledge of how other departments work to a role as the DPW Commissioner in Pembroke. I don't know how much time I have left because I looked over. Sorry.
Plenty.
No, I just don't know. I've been looking at him all night, looking at how many minutes I have left, and everybody else has left. So I apologize. Never run for office. A little bit anxious. But like I said, I have a lot of experience. I'd like to bring that knowledge to bear for the Public Works Department. It's implementing some efficiencies in the department that I've seen in other departments. Again, I'd appreciate your vote in the upcoming election for DPW Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we go to the only candidate here from the Board of Health, Gary Fine.
Mr. Moderator, thank you for saving the best for last. Some of you in the audience might see some more familiar faces than on this side of the podium, so I'd like to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Gary Fine, and I'm seeking a seat on the Board of Health. Now, I grew up in the city of Quincy. My family was very active in that community. My father was actually the news director of a very local radio station, very similar to WATD in Plymouth. And it wouldn't be very unusual to have a local politician or an elected official come to our home and bend my dad's ear, to discuss something that was noteworthy happening in the town. So really, local politics was pretty much the norm in my household. I have raised my family and have made Pembroke my home for the last 23 years, and I remain interested and very active. I served on the original Solid Waste and Recycling Committee, and I also served on the Pembroke Advisory Committee from 2010 to 2012. I believe that I've passed my community service values to both of my sons, who share a very strong interest in U.S. government. My eldest son, Jesse, is a sophomore at the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. And my younger son, Addison, he is the senior class president of Pembroke High School. He runs cross-country and track. He works at Stop and Shop. And I'm not sure how he does it, but he also spends his time, he actually is doing an independent study working at Town Hall. He's actually working with Mr. Ed Thorne, the town administrator, on rewriting parts of the charter for the town of Pembroke. I myself, I am the owner of Gary Fine Weddings. I'm also a certified paralegal. I focus on elder law, divorce, and mediation. And really my vision for the Board of Health, when I look at what's happened in the last few years there, I'd like to continue the positive direction that the Board of Health is going in. Some of the things that I support...
Gary, we're out of time, so if you want to wrap it up.
I'm running out of time?
You are out of time.
I'm out of time. Okay, thank you, Steve.
I'll give you a sentence to wrap it up if you want. Okay, so we'll go to the next segment of the program, which, as I described, we're happy to have with us two local reporters. Charles Mathewson from WATD, has worked at WATD for many years and in the print media for many years before that, and Mark Burridge, who is the editor of the Pembroke Mariner and Express. And we'll give the person with the most seniority the chance to take the first question, make the first question, and that'd be Charles Mathewson from WATD.
Thank you, Steve. Let's move from the inside out. So, Ben, you're running against three candidates, each with years of experience as selectman. What do you have to offer?
I've been involved in town government for the last 8 years, and I believe that I've sat on the advisory committee. I have budgeting and management experience. I have experience at the DPW with not only budget and management, but also with federal and municipal regulations and state regulations through water resources as well as roads and highways. I don't believe that not having actual experience as a selectman is detrimental when one has been involved as much as I have and has been around as much as I have, that it's not that great of a step to move from one to the other.
Thank you. Bob, I have two parts. I thought you were done with this. Why are you retiring? Quickly.
Well,
briefly.
I actually dug out my old speech when I left office, and I did leave the window open for coming back again. But I'm not a believer in sticking around and then saying, well, I want to run again because I want to finish up on things. I believe in getting it done. First time I did 3 years as a selectman. My good friend Jerry Dempsey, wherever he is somewhere, said to me, Bob, you know what, he doesn't have his hearing aid. Jerry, I'm talking about you. Jerry says to me, Bob, you know it's time to quit when your kids say to you, not another meeting again tonight, Dad. And sure enough, towards the end of my third year, my first term, they said, not another meeting again, Dad. They were little and young, and I said, that's it. So time went by, we went from a three-man board to a five, said good opportunity to run again, and I said to the family, what do you think, should I do it, should I run again? And they said, yeah. I said to the kids, why? I said, so we can get you out of the house on Monday night. So things change. I needed a break. I had an elderly mother-in-law, I had a couple of little health issues I took care of, and I'm ready to go, and I think I offer a lot to the town, so that's why I'm running again.
Okay, part two.
Charles, if I could just ask you, they're having trouble hearing the questions in the back, so in order, I'd rather not have to repeat all the questions, so let's try right into the microphone.
Part two. Do you have or plan to have real estate projects in Pembroke that could appear to pose a conflict of interest if elected?
If there were something that would potentially be a conflict of interest, I obviously would have to abstain. I don't see where the selectman's position has anything to do with anything that would have to do with a real estate approval, except signs, which I think are approved downstairs, or an earth removal permit. So I don't see that as being a conflict. If there's something that was a conflict, obviously I would have to step back and abstain, as many people in many different positions in this town hall have done from time to time.
I've been asked, I wanted to get out on the record. Bill, knowing you for many years, I assume that when you sent an email to town employees Sunday soliciting donations to your re-election campaign, you didn't realize it may be an ethics violation. My question is, what will you do about it?
Well, actually, I just found out about that myself. I do have quite a database at home, and I did send an email out from my home to all of the people that were on my list. Unfortunately, some of those people that were on the list were town employees. I just found out today that that is a violation. I did happen to talk to a friend of mine about that and suggested that I call the state finance and advise them that I did send an email out, and my first thoughts were to send another email out and tell those people that to disregard that email, that I was sorry that I sent that it was an error. And it was surely a mistake on my part, and I will correct it.
Okay.
Last question.
Arthur, simply, why a fifth term?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Charlie?
Why a fifth term?
Well, first of all, I love the job, and it keeps me out of the house on Monday nights, as somebody else said. And the secret to 37 years of successful marriage is to be out of the house on 2 or 3 nights a week. But there are a number of projects involving the ponds, the school roofs. There are things that I want to see through. And again, without the ability to bowl or play golf, I chose politics as my avocation, if you will. And I'd like to do another term, and I think that the voters will look favorably on me. And I've been somebody that's always called you back.
Mark? Mark, just to interrupt you, one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning, and I did mention this, I think, to the candidates, and that is that during the course of debate, sometimes a candidate may feel compelled to rebut something that was said in error, and at the moderator's discretion, we will give someone a chance, 30 seconds to rebut if it's necessary. Obviously, we can't do that for every question because we'd be here all evening, so.
I have one question. No, that's loud, huh? I have one question that I was hoping to get an answer from each of you. Just, you all have different amounts of experience. You all have been on town boards and you know what's happening around town. What do you think is the most important issue? I think most people right off bat would say, going off of the budget shortfall from last year, it'd be the budget moving forward, but is it that or is it something else?
Arthur, you were the last time. I'll give this one to you first.
So the last shall be first. I think clearly, Mark, it is the budget, and we've started looking at it already, and I think between a watchful eye and a little help from the state, we'll be all right.
Bill?
I think that's probably one of the biggest problems that we have to address would be the budget. if you're not interested in talking about the budget, I think that the next problem would be communications amongst all the department heads and the people that work for the town. And I think we've addressed that by getting a hold of and starting a committee that took hold and is trying to run a new computer program and updating all of our computers and all that within the town. So I think communications is a big problem within the town itself, and I think that is being addressed now, and I think that it's will make things easier for the taxpayer to do a bunch of things online, and it will be easier for people to communicate back and forth amongst each other, so that everybody knows what's going on.
Bob DeMarzo?
The budget, most definitely. People are concerned about their taxes and how much they have to pay. It's been said we have $1.2 million in stabilization, and that's been a good job. When I left office, we had about $389,000 in stabilization. It's deceiving to say we have $1.2 million and we've done a good job, because of that $1.2 million, 800 some odd thousand was from the federal gasoline lawsuit. So it was money that came from heaven, just fell into our laps. So without that money, we'd be down into the low 300,000. So we haven't improved at all. We've actually gone backwards since I left. We did get 800,000 in land sales, and you got to give a credit to Kathleen McCarthy, who did an excellent job in putting added value to those lots. She went out and got them engineered, perk tests done, and so on. So when she put it on the market, we got top dollar instead of a low price. We have unfunded pension liabilities of $50 some odd million. We have virtually no money set aside for buybacks for vacation and sick days from employees when they retire, unfunded health insurance liabilities. We have a lot of money that we owe that we're not addressing at all.
Next question, and I'm sorry, Ben Bastianelli.
Could you repeat that question?
Yeah, I was just saying, if of all the town issues, do you view the budget, given the shortfall last year, and we're in kind of the budget process now, do you view that as the biggest problem for the town or biggest issue, or is there another one?
I believe the biggest issue in the town is transparency. And it's transparency in everything associated with finances. And about every issue that comes through the Board of Selectmen has to do with some financial matter. And what seems to happen is only a portion of that information ever gets disseminated to the public. There's always a piece that seems to be lingering someplace for whatever reason. I'm not accusing anybody of not being transparent, but we don't make an effort to be completely transparent and put out all the information so the taxpayers have a clear understanding, simple and concise, so they can go to town meeting and vote on warrant issues and vote on issues and really understand what they're voting on. Because most of the time, the little dissertation, they just don't have all the information.
Thank you. Charles, your turn.
For each DPW candidate, the question on everyone's minds: how will you fix the roads, and should the DPW prepare for another winter like this?
May I?
Tom, I'll let you go first.
Charlie, as I stated, I'd like to see the implementation of the pavement management program that we put together with Beta. It's an $11.5 million project. We think it should be spread over a 5-year period. We're going to ask the town to set aside 25% of the excise tax so that it'll help us meet those goals. But even with the additional money from the excise tax, the town will have to appropriate additional funds. If we had additional money from the excise tax of approximately $500,000, plus our anticipated Chapter 90 that of $565,000, we will still be short of the necessary annual amount of $2.5 million that we feel is necessary to implement the payment management properly.
Thank you. Jason?
I would agree that looking at a pavement management program would be definitely beneficial to the town. I've implemented them before, but it also, when it comes to potholes and plowing, When it comes to potholes, I would look at doing a online reporting. So you don't have to call up and make a phone call. You could do an online report of where a pothole is, and then try and get a response time for those potholes and make sure that they're responded to in a reasonable amount of time. And additionally, when it comes to the snow plowing, which I also see, is to get the complaints off of Facebook and get them on someplace where they can actually be responded to by the employees and not by other people just posting random thoughts about what they think. It should be accountable and it's easy to implement. And also, if I have time?
Yes, you do.
I would looking at other people's budgets too. You know, everybody says that Hanson's better, Hanover's better, everybody else is better. How much are they spending on it versus how much we're spending by lane mile? Evaluate how many lane miles all these surrounding towns have and what's their budget as compared to what our budget is. Are they comparable? Are they not? Do you get what you pay for, or is it we have the same amount of money and we're not doing as good a job?
Thank you. Gary Fine, you'll get this question from Mark Burridge.
To the DPW. Do you want us to?
Oh, I'm sorry. Another question for DPW. I'm out of order. Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, well, I guess I have the same question, but from different perspectives for both of you. Tom, since you're a member of the board, are you happy with the way that the DPW is running, or do you see, I know you mentioned a couple things you want the board to do. Do you, are you happy with how it's running right now? Conversely, are there new ideas that you want to bring to the table? I know you just mentioned technology.
Well, I think unfortunately any new ideas that we have cost money, and that's been an issue. We've talked about getting new equipment. We are going to try to do it at town meeting again through water revenue so it doesn't affect the tax base. And we're trying to upgrade our equipment because our equipment is in tough shape. A lot of our equipment is, pardon me, ancient. It needs to be replaced, and we're talking about doing that on a piecemeal basis. But right now, we need to spend some money, water revenue money, on equipment to help the water department.
Now, last question for Gary Fine. Oh, I'm not good at this. I know. I'm sorry, Jason.
As I said, as far as DPW is concerned, I would definitely try to implement an online tracking system, trying to get hopefully, response times down if there was one for a situation. But also, like I said, when it comes to plowing, are you getting what you pay for, or are we paying the same amount as everybody else and not getting as good a service? As far, like you said, you'll see the comments online. Hanover's roads are great, Pembroke roads are crap. How much money is Hanover spending per lane mile of road on snow removal versus Pembroke? I don't know that answer at this point, but that's something that we should look at. And it's easy enough to send a survey around to the local towns and ask them the questions.
Thank you. Now, Gary, it's your turn.
We have
Charles.
no questions for Mr. Fine.
I'm sorry?
We have no questions.
Please, don't do that to me.
Gary, as you said in your opening remarks, you're the least familiar face up here. Could you please talk a little bit more about your background and connect the dots between being a JP and a Board of Health member?
Well, thank you for calling me a JP. I'd like to call myself a Justice of the Peace, but that's okay. I think being a wedding officiant gives me the opportunity to interact with a lot of young couples who are starting a new chapter of their lives together. And when I look at the Board of Health is a very small department. You have the health agent and one administrator. So it's a very small department. And I think the current health agent is working very hard, has a lot of new ideas, and could use what I would call or term a robust Board of Health. I would like to see, if elected, I would like to see some of the Board of Health members get more involved in helping the town and working with the health agent some of the issues, whether it be education around the issues of recycling, the visiting nurses program that the health agent has growing. So I think I bring a lot of energy, a lot of passion, and I'd like to think some good communication skills, and I'm more than happy to work with the residents of Pembroke to invigorate the Board of Health.
Mark.
What should the Board of Health do regarding the drug and specifically heroin crisis that's facing the South Shore right now?
Well, clearly, because you're making mention to heroin, there's clearly a heroin problem, not just in Pembroke, not in the South Shore, but all over the state. I've talked to, not a handful, but I've talked to a few police officers that say it is quite a problem. You know, drug education isn't the only thing that has to happen. I know that there is some good programs in the schools as far as drug education, but I think, to your point, what can the Board of Health do? You know, maybe we can have some evening seminars hosted at the library where we bring people in to talk about the heroin problem. So maybe we're not just reaching out to the students in the school system, but I'm sure there are parents out there that maybe would like to know what is going on in terms of, you know, the heroin, but the drug problem, Pembroke and elsewhere. So it might be an opportunity for parents to learn what's going on in the community. So that's just one idea off the top of my head.
All right, thank you. And we thank the reporters for this facet of the debate. And we're now going on to the third section, and that is questions from you. And some of the questions are directed at specific offices, some are directed at all. I'll mention the first couple, and these are actually, this question is directed at all the candidates. And by the way, again, candidates will have a minute to answer each one of these questions. In December, the Department of Revenue conducted a financial management review of the town. There are 38 recommendations in that report that affect every town department. For the Selectman candidates, please cite a recommendation or recommendations that you think should be adopted and one or two that you disagree with. And we'll start with Bob DeMarzo.
Okay, I disagree with the one where they pretty much were going to wipe out the cash management or fiscal planning committee and make it somebody from the school committee, treasurer collector. Basically, they were taking the advisory out of the picture and the selectmen out of the picture. They're taking two key people out of that, and I totally disagree with that. They did have some good ideas about setting money aside and working on unfunded liabilities. And I did read the report, believe it or not. My mind's going blank. I have a full minute to think.
You get 15 seconds.
I can't think of some of the others, but I did have some concerns with it.
Arthur Boyle?
Yeah, I would agree that there shouldn't be radical changes in cash management. I think it's a committee that's worked well over the years, and I'd be in favor of keeping it. Simply because the Department of Revenue made the recommendation doesn't necessarily mean that it's gospel and that you've got to take every bit of advice they give you. One of the things, and I've already moved it through the Board of Selectmen, was taking medical benefits out of the selectmen and the elected officials who are paid, that effective with the next election or the new person coming in, that there'll be no opportunity to have the health plan. It's not meant for people with part-time jobs that make $1,800 a year, and it's been a bone of contention for some time, and I think that on the advice of the Department of Revenue, that was a wise move.
All right, time's up. Ben Bastianelli.
The DOR report has a number of factual and data inconsistencies with both the town information and within itself. One of the things that I disagreed with is their recommendations about a mandate for the DPW as in terms of water revenue rebates. Mass General Law is very specific about water revenue rebates and the procedures and policies, and the DPW adopted those procedures and policies as well as some localized regulation in reference to that. So I found that the DOR report didn't do as well on their homework as they probably should have. And for the most part, their layout of how the town actually functions and the chart, I believe it's on page 3, which lays out all of the departments and the elected officials and so forth, I found to be very interesting.
And same question for the DPW and Board of Health candidates. DOI's report, 38 recommendations for both of your offices. Please cite a recommendation or recommendations affecting your department that you agree or disagree with. And this time we'll start with Gary.
I don't get a chance to speak now.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what?
It's okay.
At least you're consistent.
At least I am. I'm sorry, Bill. I'm writing ahead, and I'm not. Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, I read the DOR report, and I thought it was a very good report. These are the people in the state that run the state, and they're making recommendations to us. As much as they made recommendations to Marshfield and some other towns, we asked them to come in and look at our town, to give us an idea, something to work with, to say whether we are doing things right. How can we improve things? How can we make them better? How would it be better all the way around for the whole town, the townspeople in the state? And I thought it was a very good report. There's some things in there in that report that cost-wise, that money that we can't afford, and it's something that we can't do right now, but it's something that we can put on the screen ahead of us to look ahead and say, this is something that we want to do in the future, and we can work towards that. And like Arthur said, and some of the other selectmen, and we have some things coming up at the town meeting for some townspeople votes to look at this and try to make some changes right away, and work toward these changes as soon as we can.
Time's up, Bill.
Okay.
Now, moving ahead. Gary, you had time to think about it.
So when I read the DOR report, a lot of things stood out for me, principally gaining a lot of efficiencies using, even though we can't afford new technology, I think that there are clearly some existing technologies within Town Hall, but we've got old procedures that we're using that have probably been going on for years, and because that's the way we do things. And I think the DOR report highlighted that in terms of standardizing maybe payroll and things of that sort. But specifically with the Board of Health, you'll notice that there's not a direct reporting relationship between the town administrator and the health agent. And I think because of issues that have happened in the past, the town administrator has gotten involved with the Board of Health to help with some checks and balances. So they've acknowledged that as an existing relationship, and I would like to see that continue in the future. Thank you.
Jason?
I would love to say I've read the DOI report. I haven't, so I really can't add anything under this question. I will read it, and the next time you talk to me, I will have an answer.
Tom?
I honestly feel that the Public Works Department is the only department that's turned money back into the town. The only department or the only area that we cannot turn money back in is snow and ice, and that's, unfortunately, we're a victim of weather. Once again, if we can be more efficient with the billing department, we will do that. It only makes sense to make it more efficient.
All right, thank you. We'll go on to the next question, and this we'll pose to all the candidates. And I'll start on this side. Gary, I'll start with you again. Do you think a town manager position should be adopted?
Well, going back to the DOI report, clearly, Steve, that was one of the topics that was discussed there. Am I in favor of giving the town administrator possibly some more controls, more reporting relationships? The answer is yes. Is the town manager the answer? I'm not an expert on the subject. I would say that I'm not so sure. You know, you bring in a town manager, you give them more power. Is that town manager responsible to the voters? You know, is that town manager going to come in there, sign a 3-year contract, you know, put the hammer down and then be gone in 3 years? I'm not so sure. So I'm not an expert on the subject. Am I in favor of giving our current town administrator more power? Yes. I'm not sure if I'm in favor of the town manager, though,
Tom?
at this point.
I feel basically what Gary has said. I agree that I'm not sure if I want to see the administrator should I become a town manager, but I know we're all happy with what Ed has done so far, and I don't have a problem with giving him more authority.
Jason?
From my experience, I actually like the town administrator model better. I agree it gives you the elected officials the last line of defense. They're going to be held accountable for the decisions that are made. And the town manager isn't. He's only held accountable to the elected officials themselves. That accountability is there. If you go above that, you go to a mayor, which again, it's an elected official who's the last line making the decisions.
Pose the same question to the Board of Selectmen, and we'll start first with Bill Boulter. Do you think a town manager position should be adopted?
I think that the town manager's position needs to be studied by the Government Study Committee, and we've putting a study committee together to make that decision, and also to start a town charter. And that's going to take some time. That's going to take probably a few years before we get those recommendations back from the town charter committee. But in the meantime, we have an article that's coming up on the town hall floor at our annual town meeting to give the town administrator more authority than he has now. There's a lot of things that Mr. Thorne does now that is not in his contract, and we would like to update his contract and give him more authority in certain areas, and that will be brought up at the town meeting. That will be one of the articles that will be discussed at the annual town meeting this year.
Okay, time's up. Ben?
I believe if you read the DOR report and understand how it details the town's policies and procedures, and if you follow the bylaws the way they are written, and specifically the town manager's responsibilities, the town administrator's responsibilities are laid out very clearly in the bylaws. I believe there's 2 pages of them as to what his role and responsibilities are. And if you look at the hierarchy that the DOR placed in that report about how the town is supposed to function with all its elected boards and understand the checks and balances, I don't believe if we follow the rules, I don't believe that there is any merit in any changes. I think the town can function perfectly in accordance with those bylaws, in accordance with those rules, and it's all about accountability and holding everybody accountable for their responsibilities across the board.
Thank you. Arthur?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I would look at it seriously. I think that given the situation that we're in and we're growing into, a town manager has to be something that's on the front burner at least. We're a $57 million budget. We have professional management right now. We're lucky in who we do have. I tell Ed Thorne all the time that, you know, as a 14 or 15-year town administrator, I said you're a virtual dinosaur because they last generally about 5 years, which is the length of one trip through the Board of Selectmen, and you get enough people manager that they don't renew your contract. But I think we're close to that time, and I would certainly support looking at it, and you know, if it makes sense, I would go to a town manager.
And Bob DeMarzo.
Definitely, we need to look at the town manager. I'm not in favor of the Department of Revenue's report saying to add a lot more responsibilities to the town administrator. He makes mention that he may retire at some point in the future. I have no idea whether he will or not, and that has nothing to do with my opinion. But if we are going to change the position and change it greatly, then we need to look at all candidates and the skill sets they bring. It's not fair to say to whoever's in power, who's ever in that office, okay, you're going to do this, this, and that, without knowing if they're capable of it and who's the best person out there for a buck. So if you're changing the job, you have to go out for a search again. So I think we leave it as is and do a search. With time left, the Department of Revenue reports told us we should change our town meeting from April to May, which is ludicrous because they say the state can't get us the numbers. The state can get us the numbers, the legislator, if they do their job and work hard to do it. What they're basically saying, almost every city and town in the state needs to change their town meeting because the state can't get their budget numbers to us. They put their minds to what they can. And so the department, as Arthur says, just because the Department of Revenue report says something doesn't mean it's right.
Thank you. This next question is addressed to incumbents, but I think this is more of a selectman's question, so I'll just address it to the selectman. And that is this: do you believe giving away the local cable TV to others was beneficial or not in retrospect? And we'll start with Arthur Boyle.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think making the change to PAC TV was a necessity. In terms of what we gave away and what we got at the high school, in terms of an audiovisual department and a real functioning cable system, I think we made the best decision we could make at the time, and I think time has proven it's successful, and in fact we're on cable tonight, so I would say in at least a broad sense we've made a good decision.
Bill Boulter?
I believe most definitely that we made a very good decision. And that decision wasn't made by one or two people. It was made by 5 members of the board, board that was serving at the time on the cable, on the Pembroke media broadcast. It was made by 5 of those people who were very professional people, and it was also made by 5 members of the Board of Selectmen. So it was 10 very professional people that made that decision. And I stand by that decision today. I think that PAC TV is a very good choice, and they've done a wonderful job for us since they've been on.
Bob DeMarzo.
No, I do not think we got the best out of that deal. I actually read the cable contract the other day, what they have to provide. They will tape 4 shows per week of government shows in wired rooms. So basically we're getting 1 show a week. I've had people complain about what they show, that there's not a lot being shown, and yes, this is being broadcast tonight. In the past, the cable company would do it very, very pleasant, just willingly. Right now, the candidates at this table are paying to have this tape to be shown on TV. It's not being done for free. The candidates here have all written checks, checked in, so it'll be shown on TV.
Ben.
Mr. Moderator, I will not speak to the issue because it was before my time and I don't really know all the details. I would say this, that it appears to me from what I hear in general from people that speak about it is that there is some compassion that certain people and maybe groups of people would like to see some sort of a TV or television or something back in the town. So I can only say that at some point in time there must have been something beneficial to it.
Thank you. This next question is just for the DPW, and it is this: how do you feel about geographic information technology as related to public projects? We'll start with Jason.
I love GIS. I do GIS for a living. I do the mapping for the assessor's office. I've done GIS work for 20, 30 towns in Massachusetts. I've mapped water systems, mapped roadways, mapped everything. GIS is great. I think it should be pushed forward more. The assessors started the ball down the road. We had meetings about it in town hall, and in other departments never really talked about it. We got it in certain departments, certain people used it, it didn't get supported by IT. I would definitely push to try and get it going more, and that also leads into the whole tracking of incidents online. You have to have a map to show where the incidents were addressed at. So if somebody reports a pothole, you need to know geographically where it is.
Tom?
I won't argue with Jason. I won't argue with Jason. That's his field. Personally, I'm a construction professional, and I don't have a problem with GIS. I think it's a good idea, but Jason knows more about it than I do.
We're going to take two more questions that we can pose to all the candidates, and then we'll do the closing statements. And the next question, Gary, we'll start with you. With over 11,000 registered voters and about 150 showing up at town meeting, what are your thoughts about allowing online voting at town meeting? Can I answer this? No. Go ahead, Gary.
No.
Well, I think at first blush, Mr. Moderator, it probably sounds like a good idea. Everybody in this room probably has a Facebook account, and everybody is online, and I think that's the way we do our commercial business, retail business. So again, at first blush, good idea. However, I think you're potentially opening up Pandora's box. It would probably require an awful lot of resources on the part of the town to ensure that it would be done properly. You know, the checks and balances in and of itself, it'd be an enormous cost. So is it something that I could see happening years down the road? Sure, but I don't think Pembroke should be a pioneer in online for the town meeting.
And I'm going to jump to the selectmen and for the same question, and we'll start with Bob DeMarzo.
I'm against it.
Bill Boulter.
I think it's an idea that we have to look at for the future, because we don't want Pembroke to be just a little dinky town in the state. I think what we need to do is to look to try to better our community and make it more accessible to people. So I definitely think it's something that we should look at.
Ben?
Mr. Moderator, I would love to say that I'm against it. I like to see people come out and interact and face one another and have discussions and debates. But I also understand that technology is moving at such a pace and the world is moving at such a pace that at some point in time the town will be forced to look at something. I'm not quite sure what it is in terms of online voting, but they're going to end up having to move forward as much as we don't like to. Another thing I would suggest is the town looking at alternate dates for town meetings and maybe moving them to a different time. Maybe a weekend, a Saturday morning, afternoon, late Saturday afternoon, trying something to give the voters an opportunity to come to town meeting. Not everybody can attend at night. People with small family, young families, they have issues.
Time's up, Ben.
Thank you.
Arthur?
I would say no. I think it's, having come from a city form of government originally, the town meeting is an event. It's a great gathering of people. It's a great time to exchange ideas. You can see who you're debating face to face, and I love the idea of democracy in its in its finest condition, and I would not support voting from home.
Tom, online voting for a town meeting.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm opposed to it, but what I'd like to see is I'd like to see a representative form of town meeting. I don't know how that's going to sit, but that would preclude voting the town meeting with parents when there's a school issue. You would select vote for your precinct captain, if you will, and they would come to town meeting and vote, as opposed to online voting.
Jason?
I'm a technology guy. I've got my phone all the time and my laptop. I would never recommend going to online voting. If you already think you get people voting in groups like, oh, we're going to be there just to vote for this one article, you don't think people are going to be sitting online waiting for that one article voting and then stop voting for the rest of the night? I mean, that's what would happen. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I think that there could be options for getting people out there. I mean, if you're going to go that route, why not just make a whole ballot with all the questions, with every single article on it, and everybody vote at the polls? You'd get better turnout. I'm not saying that's the way to go, but that's just as effective as going online, because it's going to get the same response. People are not going to care what the debate is. They're just going to hit yes or no to whatever question when it comes up to vote. They're not going to listen to the debate.
All right, thank you, Jason. Last question for all the
Mr.
candidates.
Moderator, do you have an opinion?
Yes, but I'm going to keep it to myself.
Excuse me, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator, you are up for re-election. It would be nice if we could get your opinion.
Well, my short opinion is it's a bad idea. I think it's been posed before. People have asked me about it, and I think it's very hard to prevent fraud, at least from what I've seen so far. I don't know of any towns in the Commonwealth that do it. But a lot that do electronic voting. Duxbury's just moving to that. Kingston's thinking about it. But online, electronic voting as in electronic voting at the meeting. Right. But I think online voting may be a little bit of a stretch. Last question for all the candidates. Little offbeat. Tell us something positive that one or several of your opponents have done for the community. Tom.
Well, unfortunately, I don't know Jason. Jason and I just met tonight.
Right into that.
Jason and I just met tonight. So
I understand, sir.
I can't comment one way or the other.
Jason?
I agree. I've never met Tom until tonight. I think the DPW is doing a good job. Could they be doing better? I think so, but that's yet to be seen.
Gary? They're not here, so I guess you can say anything you want.
You said it, Mr. Moderator, I didn't. I have not personally met either Vin Flaherty or Gail McSweeney. In my travels walking around town introducing myself to the voters, I've heard little dribs and drabs of information, both positive and negative. I do know that Mr. Flaherty was the former health agent of Hanson, so I would imagine that maybe he may not bring the passion and the energy that I bring, but he probably has a little bit more knowledge about Title V than I do. Do I have some knowledge? Absolutely. Maybe he brings a little bit more to the table in that regard. As far as Gail McSweeney goes, I do not know her.
All right, let's move to the Selectman. Same question. Tell us something positive about one of your opponents or all of your opponents. So we'll start with Arthur Boyle.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's always nice to go first on a question like this. We heard tonight the potential for conflicts for two of my colleagues here, and I just want to say, having served with both of them, that you can question decisions that they may make and votes that they may make, but you can't question their integrity, either one of them. I've served with both, and they're both gentlemen, and they will do what's in Pembroke's best interest if they're elected, as will I if I'm elected.
Ben?
I respect the candidates that are sitting at this table, and I respect them for their dedication and their service. And as Arthur says, and I'm sure that they will concur, we don't all always agree, and we don't all always get along. But the bottom line is that all of us sitting here have one thing in mind, and that's to do the best possible job we can to serve the town of Pembroke. So I think that all of them are commendable in that respect.
Bob DeMarzo.
A few things. Bill Boulter, I would term, as they say in the vernacular, a stand-up guy. When we hired Greg Wright, our chief of police, there was only one, and had a reception for him at this venue right here. There was only one police officer that came to that reception for the new chief of police, and that was Bill Boulter. I've also gone fishing with him. He's great at cleaning fish. He's great at, well, that tuna that he shows, I was pulling that tuna too, so I get credit for it. But Bill's a stand-up guy, and his heart is in the best interest of the town. Arthur, I've worked with a lot of times. We've had a lot of fun, practical jokes. We've also done some good things. We made a bet once when the DPW worker needed a kidney transplant. We made a bet as to who would raise the most money. The loser had to shave their mustache off. I raised more money. Arthur said he did. He didn't. But we agreed. We went into the men's room at the Knights of Columbus, and we shaved our mustaches out and came out to in front of 300 people. My wife had never seen me without a mustache.
And the truth be told, I raised the most money.
Going into battle with Arthur
10
at
seconds.
the selectmen's meeting, there was an instance. I'm not a believer in listening to the lawyers and listening to the experts without doing my homework. And town council wanted to take a certain course of action in a lawsuit we had. I said, no, we don't do it that way. We do it this way. This is what I want you to say in court, how to address it. Arthur immediately backed me up, and the two of us convinced the rest of the board that was the route to take, not what the lawyers were telling us. The lawyer came back to us the next week and said, boy, I'll never play poker with the Board of Selectmen in Pembroke. We won. So don't always listen, and Arthur was a good person to back you up.
Thanks, Bob.
Bill Boulter.
First of all, Bob had never caught a tuna fish, and he called me up and asked me to come on his boat to go catch one. So the first time I went out with him, we did catch about 150-pound tuna. So, but all kidding aside, I don't know Ben very well up until the last few years that he served on the DPW. And if you watch the Selectmen's meeting, every night that we talk about the DPW, we're always commending them for a job that those guys have done, working late hours and done the right thing for the town and tried to make our roads the best that they could be. Potholes and all the rest of this stuff has got nothing to do with Ben. I know that he has, his heart in his mind of saying that he wants to do the best for Pembroke, and I believe that. I've known Bob DeMarzo for quite a few years, and I know that he's done a lot of good things for the town in the past. Arthur has also done a lot of good things in the town since he's been here. He's a dedicated politician. He's here all the time. He's helped the board quite a bit. Do we agree all the time? No.
Time, Bill.
The current board is very good, and we disagree a lot, especially behind closed doors. And I think that I'm asking for your vote, your first vote as selectman for candidate for selectman.
All right, we are finished with this part of the program. The last part is the closing statements. There were a lot of good questions that we didn't get to. I appreciate those who submitted questions. I'm sorry we wouldn't get to all of them. We'd be here to spring if we tried to answer them all, but we tried to get to as many and as varied subjects as we could. Time for the closing statements. Once again, each candidate will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement, and we will go in the same order that we did in the opening statements, and the first candidate will be Bill Boulter.
Okay, most of you people know me. I've been around town for quite a few years. I am a man of integrity and a hard worker. And when it comes time to work and get things done, you'll see me out in the trenches doing it. I would never ask any of the town employees or anybody else to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. I would definitely get right out there and get my hands dirty, the same as the other people, and get the job done. And I think I started when I was a teenager, doing things for the town of Pembroke, and I've done things all my life. So this is basically, where my heart is here, trying to do the best job for you as selectmen. So.
Arthur Boyle.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I want to say thank you tonight for all those who attended, and I think I've earned the opportunity to ask for one of your 2 votes for Board of Selectmen. Whether your interest is ponds, or schools, open space, or issues affecting our seniors, I've always returned your calls, and I've always got the town's best interest in mind. I have a history of public service with the town of Pembroke since I moved here almost 20 years ago. Silver Lake was a step forward that we made with a group of parents. I look at Paul Dwyer over here, one of my former colleagues, and he and I and Joe Delmonico were known as the Minority 3 when we first went on with the idea of a Pembroke-only school system. And that grew as the elections changed and people on the board changed, and we know what we have now in a successful school system. I also have introduced a paper in the past to ensure that our new police chief comes from our own department. I believe that if you work hard for 20 years or more, you deserve an opportunity to lead what has proven to be a well-run department. I think it's proven to be a sound decision as well. I'll make the same proposal when selecting a fire chief should the opportunity come up and there were a retirement of the fire chief. I think hard work, teamwork, and loyalty should be rewarded. Again, I ask for one of your 2 votes. I bring proven leadership and experience to the job. And if I have time for a brief thank you, Mr. Moderator, I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this event and Wally and Joe Roenick for being our most gracious hosts. The elected officials and the employees of the town who are dedicated to the town's success, to my friends and family, including my wife Helen, 3 children and 5 grandchildren, and you wonder why I want to stay out on Monday nights. Thank you all very much.
Ben Bastianelli.
It's my belief that we need to move forward, and I don't see our current representation has this in mind. We spend far too much time pursuing avenues that do little or nothing to improve the community and the quality of life. As a DPW Commissioner, I've been involved in roadway improvement plans. Route 36 and 24 will be reconstructed in the coming years. As a Water Commissioner, I've assured the cleaning of our wells, installing energy-efficient equipment in our pumping stations, installing solar-powered circulators in our water tanks to ensure the quality of water to our homes. Our cemeteries will undergo renovations to entrances, walls, and headstone refurbishments in the next year, just to name a few. I offer that if I am able to be productive at the DPW, why not as your selectman? I seek one of your 2 votes for selectman. Thank you.
Bob DeMarzo.
I want to thank and commend all the candidates for participating in the election process. One thing the candidates have in common is that we care about Pembroke. Sure, we have our disagreements, but as a community, we need to continually strive to do the best we can. Once the election is over, we need to have everyone work as a team, and the Board of Selectmen provide the leadership the town deserves. I'm a fiscal conservative, experienced and hardworking. I have a proven record of getting the job done. I've enjoyed helping people. As a selectman, people come to you with problems, how to work through things. I've always enjoyed it and look forward to doing that again. Silver Lake's been mentioned, and there was a committee before, the committee Arthur was on, and that kind of was the committee that figured out, yes, we're not getting any additional funding and we can break away. And there's one person that really deserves credit for keeping that torch alive for getting out of the region, and she's never really gotten the credit. And Arthur probably will attest this. Barbara Kane, who's passed on. Barbara Kane had been advocating for years to withdraw from the Silver Lake, and she joined the committee I was on before Arthur's, and she kept that torch alive, and she's never really gotten, I think, the credit she deserves. But anyway, on April 26th, the voters will have a chance to pick 2 selectmen to be part of the team that leads our community. Please cast your first vote for Bob DeMarzo. Thank you.
Tom Irving.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As I said in my opening remarks, I've got 50 years' experience in the construction industry. I've spent the last 3 years on as a DPW Commissioner. I'd like to be able to stay with them to see the completion of the 3 projects that we have pending in town, plus the cemetery work, plus the stormwater management plan, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Jason?
Again, like I said, I grew up in Pembroke. My family's been here. My great-parents were here. My grandparents, my parents my family's been here a long time. I would like to bring that knowledge that I have in what I've learned in my professional career to the DPW board. You know, we talk a lot about communication. You need to get better communication both from outside town hall and also inside town hall. From working with the assessors department, doing their mapping work, just getting communication between the different departments is difficult. You know, I would work to try and improve that, you know, to get some communication. You know, I got an email from the people working for the DPW last week, or assessors got it and they forwarded it to me looking for information, but there's no feedback the other direction, giving the data back to the assessors to use in their GIS system, for example. You know, I'd like to work to improve that, but also the communication from outside Town Hall in as well. Again, I'd appreciate your vote in the upcoming election for DPW Commissioner.
Gary.
With respect to the Board of Health, and I ran out of time at my introduction, I'd like to tell you a couple of my goals. I believe in strong oversight of our Mass Title V regulations to ensure the quality of our ponds and beaches and those homeowners that have private wells. I also strongly believe in supporting some of the services that allow some of our homeowners that have a failed septic system so they can get a low-interest loan that is administered through the town of Pembroke. You know, Pembroke is a town that is 100% on septic, and if elected, I'll keep my eye on the environment. And every homeowner that comes before the board seeking a variance, I can tell you that I will treat them with respect and dignity, and I will be fair and impartial without prejudice. And if elected, I will serve with great pride and care. And I'd like to close by quoting something from the late Jimi Hendrix. And Hendrix said that knowledge speaks, but wisdom listens. And I'd like to thank everyone tonight for listening and coming out on what is a not so great evening. And I would like to ask everyone to please remember that Pembroke deserves a fine Board of Health, and I ask for your support on Saturday, April 26th. Thank you.
And that concludes our debate for the evening. I'd once again like to thank the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce for providing this very beneficial public service to everybody in town. For the also again to the Pembroke Country Club. All this is moot if you don't vote. So I want to remind you, you probably don't need reminding, but others may, those that are watching from home, that the election is April 26th. The polls open at 9, they close at 7. Have to put a plug in for town meeting, which is the Tuesday before, April 22nd. It really is democracy in its purest form. There was a lot that we have to take up at the town meeting. That's at 7:30 at the Pembroke High School. The last day to register to vote for both town meeting and for town election is April 2nd. And if you plan to vote absentee, you must have the ballots into the clerk's office or vote in person in the clerk's office by noon, April 25th, the day before the election. Did I get that right, Mary Ann? All right, thank you. Once again, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. And again, let's give a round to the candidates. It's not easy to do this. And whether you're running for re-election, whether you're running unopposed, whether you have opposition, whether you're running from one office to another, first time, last time, it's very hard. You open yourself up, you open your family up to criticism, yourself up to criticism. You have to raise money, you have to devote a lot of time to it, and it's not an easy task. So for those who run for any office, any position, whether they win or lose, I applaud you and congratulate you for putting it out there and for running. And again, thank you for attending tonight. There's still plenty of food available, I think, I hope. Drive home safely and thank you. Good night. Thank you.